Okay guys, let's take this CX-50 for a drive. Now before we go take it for a drive, I want to show you guys what's under the hood. Close the interior lights. So under the hood here we have Mazda's 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Once again, and every vehicle from Mazda I've tested so far. Some struts over here. Now this is making 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque on premium fuel, which is fantastic. As we can see in all other Mazdas as well, it is a transverse front-wheel drive platform, so the engine is mounted this way and not longitudinally. That will be coming later on with newer Mazdas. This is a fantastic powertrain, really torquey, really powerful, great low-end grunt. And I love how you have hood struts here as well. So let's shut this up really quick. I'll hop inside. Now, this platform does have a trailing arm rear suspension, and it has a, I think, strut-based front suspension. Now, the thing people complain about a lot in these newer Mazdas, especially the ones on this platform, is that trailing arm rear suspension. It is kind of a cheap out from Mazda, unfortunately. Now, that's not to say this vehicle feels cheap. Mazda has spent an insane amount of time working on this platform to make sure everything works perfectly. It feels like a German vehicle in the sense of how the chassis, the powertrain, the steering, all the inputs that you're driving feel solid. All are working together, and that's something you just don't get with other vehicles in this class. You do get some nice turbo whooshes, but unfortunately there's fake engine sound. And I have to say the steering is pretty tight on this CX-50, but around corners it's very planted, but it doesn't feel like it wants to rotate, or at least around that corner, as nicely as the CX-5 does. I think that has to be due to that trailing arm rear suspension back there. You can feel a little bit more, I guess, the vehicle turning in, or the suspension trying to like keep the vehicle planted. It also has G Vectoring Control Plus, which is Mazda's system that takes your steering inputs, weather conditions, braking inputs, and kind of tailors the torque of the vehicle, the brakes of the vehicle, to kind of help you go around corners and handle a little bit better. It's almost like a torque vectoring system, but not mechanically torque vectoring at all, which is interesting. Let's go around this bend right here. Now, Mazda claims 0 to 60 in around 6.6 seconds. Now, that's obviously going to happen when you have the premium fuel in the vehicle, and you have the full power, 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque coming out from there. So that's going to be really punchy and powerful there for you. I have to say the brake pedal is pretty firm. Brakes work fantastically, but you will have to get used to that brake pedal. Now, there is the new Meridian Edition. The acceleration is fantastic, a lot of torque. There is the Meridian Edition that is now on sale, and that vehicle, of course, is going to give you a little bit more chunkier tires, some off-road kind of graphics and stuff. So if you're looking for that, that is now offered as an extra package. But this does have an off-road mode. I think it just really optimizes the all-wheel drive system, the traction control system. Oh, wow. The steering is heavy, I will have to say. I had noticed that. Now, if you don't like a heavy steering, you may want to go to a different vehicle because it's heavy at all times. It's not like so heavy that's uncomfortable, but you really do feel very connected to the road in this vehicle. Like, I always know where these tires are mostly going at all times. Very direct steering inputs as well. I do think it's actually quite fantastic. General handling, though, of the CX-50 is fantastic. Now, these are riding on 20-inch wheels. Just make a U-turn here. So it's riding on 20-inch wheels, and I have to say, I don't know if the tires are like super overinflated on this tester, or the wheels themselves are just like not super sound insulated, but I can definitely notice that you're getting some tire or at least wheel noise when you're going over some bumps. The suspension is doing a fantastic job. Mazda really did a great job on the suspension tuning of this vehicle. You don't ever really feel that body roll too much, which is really nice, unless you're like pushing it too hard into the corner. I'm gonna pop it back into normal mode for a second. But you do definitely notice some wheel noise and tire noise sometimes. Okay guys, you find us on the highway now, and I want to show you guys Mazda's kind of like adaptive cruise control systems and their safety systems as well. So as you can see right now, we just reached over 40 miles an hour as we were stopped in traffic. But if you're under 40 miles an hour, Mazda has something called traffic assist, and essentially under 40 miles an hour, the steering will steer itself. And of course the radar cruise control works in those normal functions. But once you go over 40 miles an hour, it kicks off that steering assist, and it only turns on the traditional kind of lane keep assist, which is just a little nudge if you hit the lanes. And it'll also do, of course, the warning, and you feel vibrations in the steering wheel. This is interesting, is because in some other vehicles, such as the Subarus, almost all Subarus now have full steering assist, or like kind of like self-steering, essentially, up to like a pretty high speed. I know in our own Crosstrek, our newer Crosstrek has a steering assist function, and I mean, you can easily go up to highway speeds, and it, you know, you're not supposed to, but if you take your hands off the wheel, it'll steer around a bend by itself. This will not do that over 40 miles an hour, which is really interesting. Nonetheless, I do actually find this radar guided cruise control, or adaptive cruise control as they call it, to be very fantastic. You can adjust your speeds with the buttons on the right hand side, and it displays all your information up in the heads-up display over there, and you also have your information in the center display, especially when you activate the center display mode that offers you the full kind of like safety suite screen. You can also go to a regular speedometer, and it'll still show you that information. But it is actually a really nice system, and if you, let's say you're at 55 miles an hour and you want to go up to 65 miles an hour, it'll slowly and gently increase up to that, and not abruptly and really rapidly as some other systems do. That's one thing where I think it has a plus over Subaru's eyesight. Subaru's eyesight, let's say if you adjust to a higher speed, it's just gonna like zoom up to that speed, and it does feel a little scary sometimes. This one is actually pretty good in that aspect. I also love Mazda's blind spot monitoring system, as it kind of shows you like a 360-degree perimeter around the vehicle, both in your driver display as well as the heads-up display. And if there's something in your blind spot, whether it's front or behind, it will give like a little warning area for you, which is really fantastic. And if you are making a lane change, it will warn you if there's something in your blind spot as well, and not just have a light on, which is really nice. For example, if I put my blinker on there was a car there, and it blinked at me, so it knows. That's really cool. Other than that, I wish it was a little bit more advanced in the steering aspect. The low-speed steering works fantastically, and I understand if Mazda wants, you know, like you're supposed to be driving, they want you to be focused at these higher speeds. They have the system already, why not just apply it there? So I'm not sure what's holding them back there, unless this is just their philosophy of doing things. Otherwise, I think it's actually a pretty good system. Definitely not the most advanced one that you're going to find on the market. Now, let's say if you're backing up, you do a rear cross traffic alert, and I think a rear automatic braking assist. Of course, you have forward collision warning as well. I will say, though, a few times this week, I'm going to turn the light on for you guys so you can see a little bit better. Earlier this week, it was very cold and foggy, and kind of like there was a lot of like fog or dew in the morning, like morning mist, and the safety systems had trouble. I think the cameras were blocked from all the mist, so there's a lot of warning signs coming up. So just keep in mind that some inclement weather might hamper these systems if you are reliant on them. And if you do want to just quickly turn them off, there is a button right to your left that literally will just disable everything if you hold it and press it down. And there's a lot of customization features through the center display that can also adjust the level of these different systems. But like I was saying, at highway speeds, and let's say you're using adaptive cruise control, like I said, you don't have that steering assist, so you know, you might be thinking, what happens if, I don't know, if there's an emergency or something, or you're not doing well and you do swerve out of a lane? Well, it's gonna nudge you back into the lane, but it's not gonna center you in that lane. It's gonna like bounce you to the other side, then it'll bounce you to the other side. So I wish they had more of like a lane centering keep assist, where it really would just keep you centered all the times, instead of just bounce you through the lanes and then giving you a warning, of course. Just a minor little complaint there. Otherwise, I think it's really nice. And this thing, the CX-50, is a absolute fantastic highway cruiser. It is so comfortable. Generally, it is pretty quiet, actually. It's a little windy today, so there's some crosswinds, so it's a little bit louder than I think it normally has. I did a road trip earlier today, and I did not have the same issues. Whoa, that was a scary move that person did. I was not having the same loudness that I'm experiencing right now. Generally, though, it is pretty quiet. I think this front screen is like acoustic glass, but I don't. The side windows are not acoustic glass. Generally, though, it is pretty quiet. And big testament to Mazda's build quality. There are no creaks or rattles in here at all, so that's fantastic. And another fantastic feature, which I'm gonna do a little zoom in for you on overlay on this video. Another fantastic feature is that, let's say you're using Apple Maps. I'm not sure if this works for Google Maps. I haven't tried it, but I'm feeling it only works for Apple Maps when you're in Apple CarPlay. I think if you use Google Maps in Android Auto, this will happen too. But it will project those directions into your heads-up display. And I think that's fantastic. I have not seen a lot of automakers integrate like an Apple Map or Google Map system into their systems, especially in the heads-up display. I think that's fantastic. So that means you're not reliant on the Mazda navigation system if you want to have information in your heads-up display. Now, it doesn't work with Waze, so I'm currently using Waze to navigate, but if I were on Apple Maps, you would see it up there, and it displays the street sign or like an exit sign, and as well as an arrow, and it's big. It's actually very, very helpful. I'm very proud that Mazda was able to do that. Very happy that Mazda was able to do that. Otherwise, this thing's a really nice, comfortable highway cruiser. Really smooth, and this radar, like I said, this radar cruise system is fantastic. You can adjust your following distances. You'll see it'll display there. You have a few different settings for that. And it works really well. And the suspension tuning is just fantastic. It's really soft over bumps. The car always feels planted and sturdy, even at high speeds, or at least high enough highway speeds. I've been in some newer vehicles where, lower end, like mainstream segment, and getting up to like highway speeds, 75, 80, it feels a little, it's loud. It doesn't feel super stable or planted, like you shouldn't be going these speeds. This thing just feels solid, and I love that. It feels like it's capable of doing that. And if you do need to end up passing someone, of course you always have full control of the vehicle, even when in radar cruise. But if you do need to pass someone, that torque, all that 320 pound-feet of torque is available real down low in the revs. So you have that passing capability whenever you need it. Yeah, but like I said, guys, if you are looking for a vehicle in the segment, I think this is a fantastic choice. I would kind of pitch this directly against, it's a little bit of a weird segment. That whole crossover compact SUV segment is kind of blended together sometimes. So some outlets will say this competes with things like the Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, Subaru Forester, but I don't think so. I think it competes more with like a Subaru Outback, and let's say the Mazda CX-5 will compete with a Forester. I think it's that kind of style of segment. Nonetheless, even compared to the Subaru Outback, I do love that vehicle. It is fantastic, but this thing drives way better. It does feel a lot more solid and planted to the ground, I think, than the Outback. I do think that the Outback, especially in wilderness trim, will have a little bit more off-road, or actually a lot more off-road capability than this. But if you want something a little bit more refined, a little more grown up, you have to go for the Mazda. There's no questions asked about that. The infotainment system, I think, is better. The build quality, I think, is better. The fit and finish, I think, is a little bit better than the Mazda. And even though you can get the turbo engine in the Subaru Outback, you can't get in the Forester, unfortunately. I think I like this engine better, especially because it's paired to a 6-speed automatic, or at least an automatic in general, versus the CVT, or continuously variable transmission, that Subaru kind of forces upon you. It's not a bad CVT, but it is still a CVT, and we don't like CVTs that much. So yeah, there's a lot of things to consider, and like I said, this one is priced around $42,000, pretty much almost fully loaded. There is a new package called the Meridian package, which is a off-roady enhancement package, I would call it. So you can add that on. That'll add a little bit more to the cost, but other than that, you can get this down in the $28,000, $30,000 range with the base engine, not the turbo, but it is a very wide price range, I think, and there's a lot of different. You can kind of get your CX-50 how you want your CX-50, and they all come with these awesome looks, thankfully. So yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching my videos, especially the CX-50 review. I really enjoyed this vehicle over the past week. Is it for me? No. Personally, I like vehicles lower to the ground. I like more car-like, sports car-like vehicles. That's just my taste. But as an SUV crossover, this is one of my favorite ones I've tested in this segment so far. Though, the big thing is, if this interior was on the CX-5, I would take the CX-5 any day. I think it's the shorter wheelbase, handles better. The suspension in the CX-5 just handles better. It doesn't really matter a lot of people in this segment for those characteristics, but to me, that's something I care about. But anyways, either way you go, you're not going to be unhappy. These are fantastic vehicles, and definitely are worth something to consider if you're able to get one. Thanks again for watching, guys, and stay tuned for a lot more videos coming soon from Allcarnews.